Breaking news, the Outsourcing Facilities Association, or the OFA, has filed a lawsuit against the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, the FDA as we know it, in Fort Worth, Texas federal court, challenging the FDA's decision to remove Eli Lilly's Tirzepatide from the National Drug Shortage List. Big news, I know. Tirzepatide, sold under the brand name Zepound for weight loss and Mounjaro, remains in high demand, and the lawsuit argues that the FDA's decision was premature as the drug is still in short supply. And I think the two of us would argue that's the case.
People still report through the weekend that they can't find Zepound and Mounjaro in pharmacies. Eli Lilly, Zepound, and Mounjaro are expected to generate a combined $15 billion in revenue this year, cementing their place as some of the most lucrative drugs in the pharmaceutical industry. However, the resolution of the shortage threatens to disrupt the compounded drug market, which bankers estimate exceeds $1 billion in annual sales, potentially much more given the limited transparency around the numbers. This compounding market has played a critical role in providing patients with affordable alternatives during the shortage, but that could soon change.
Hundreds of thousands of patients have come to rely on compounded versions of Tirzepatide since shortages began as early as 2022. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration allows compounding pharmacies to create copies of brand-name drugs during shortages, offering a necessary solution when the original drugs are either too expensive or unavailable. These compounded alternatives have been a lifeline for many suffering from the disease of obesity, especially those who cannot afford or access Eli Lilly's blockbuster drugs, Zepound and Mounjaro.
This is especially important to us because having lost a combined 130 pounds with the help of GLP-1 medications, any disruption in access to Zepound or Mounjaro could impact not only our personal progress, but also the progress of countless others battling the disease of obesity.
The Outsourcing Facilities Association, or the OFA, which represents FDA-registered 503B outsourcing facilities, advocates for the production of compounded medications that meet critical patient needs. In its lawsuit, the OFA claims that the FDA relied solely on Eli Lilly's assurances that it could meet demand without consulting the public or healthcare providers, despite the fact that Zepound and Mounjaro are still difficult or impossible to obtain by many patients. By removing the drugs from the shortage list, compounded versions may soon be off the market, cutting off a vital source of more affordable medication.
If you have a prescription for Zepound or Mounjaro and are experiencing shortages when filling it, please visit the FDA's Drug Shortage Public Notification page. I'll leave a link in the description below. The FDA must hear directly from patients about the challenges we're facing in accessing these medications. Your feedback can help bring attention to ongoing supply issues and ensure that the FDA understands the full scope of what we are experiencing.
The key question is, will the judge issue a stay to keep Tirzepatide on the shortage list while the lawsuit is resolved? A stay would allow compounded versions of Zepound and Mounjaro to remain available, protecting access for thousands of patients who rely on these alternatives.
This case has significant implications for those of us battling the disease of obesity. GLP-1 medications like Zepound and compounded Tirzepatide have been instrumental in my weight loss. We know how critical these drugs are for people trying to improve their health, and we also understand how frustrating it is when costs and shortages make them challenging to obtain.
What do you think? Is this a surprise?
I didn't know there was a trade organization for compounding pharmacies, so they filed a lawsuit against the FDA in federal court today in Texas that said, we don't think that Mounjaro and Zepound should have come off the shortage list.
Right.
Is that essentially what
they're saying?
That
is essentially it. And I think if you go back and watch the news, I think one of the things I said was there's a trade association that will band together and they will sue.
Well, apparently they watched the Downsized.
Probably not, but it's a pretty standard tactic. It doesn't shock me at all.
So by filing this lawsuit, we're hoping the judge will allow compounding pharmacies to continue compounding Tirzepatide while the lawsuit is...
Correct. So that would be the stay. He
So-
would say,
Yeah.
hold on, everybody. We're not really sure.
So if the drug is indeed in shortage, then it can be made by compounding pharmacies as per
Correct.
the law. What criteria do they have for saying, yes, it's in shortage or no, it's not in shortage?
Right.
Do they just take the word of drug manufacturers every day? Do they take the word of people who go on to their website and report shortages? Like, at what point, what are the criteria for being on the shortage list?
Well,
and are there any?
I mean, we know that they added that whole caveat to their site about, well, there's a cold chain, and just because you can't find it doesn't mean it's in shortage. It might just be in shortage at that store. So I'd love to hear what a judge says about all of that, because it's a weird caveat that sounds like Lilly wrote it.
I don't know why the FDA would give a disclaimer like that.
I don't know.
Like, what does the FDA care about the supply chain? Like, people can either get it or they can't. There's no...
Well, the customers don't care about the supply chain. There's no way for us to know working.
No, I go to Walgreens, I can either get it or I can't.
Right.
So if I can't get it, to me, it seems it's in shortage. If I call 5 pharmacies within a 100-mile radius of my house and I can't get it, it seems like it's in shortage.
If I call one, honestly. It shouldn't be required to call 5 to ensure that the FDA thinks it's in shortage.
I have traveled to pharmacies far and wide in search of these medications. I know firsthand how frustrating that it is when you can't find your medications. And being on a compounded medication myself, would like very much to continue getting compounded Tirzepatide.
We'll follow this lawsuit closely and update you on whether the judge grants a stay that could preserve access to the compounded Tirzepatide for those of... What am I doing?
The paragraph didn't make any sense.
We'll follow this lawsuit closely and update you on whether the judge grants a stay that could preserve access to compounded Tirzepatide.
To stay informed on this breaking news and other updates from the GLP world, be sure to like this video, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode of The Downsized.
I'm Christopher Durham.
I'm Laraine Durham.
And we are The Downsized.